All right, guys, welcome to another episode of Happy Face Hold'em. We're down here at the Hustler Casino today. This is my second least profitable room ever. I mentioned at the end of the last vlog that Players Casino in Ventura is my most profitable. This is my second least profitable, but hey, it's my favorite place to play in LA, so come check out the Hustler Casino if you haven't already. Anyways, we got an exciting one for you today. We just absolutely crush it in the end. A little tough getting there. This guy at my table, he's kind of drunk. High, I'm not quite sure. Anyways, he's had my number all night long, but we get into a huge hand with him. Big one. So stay tuned for that. But anyways, without any further ado, take a moment, like the video, subscribe down below, ring the little notification bell, and let's get into some.
In the first hand we'll look at, Under the Gun opens the action to 10 bucks and plus one calls. We looked at Queen Jack off in the hijack, and well, we think a flat is just fine here. After all, we literally just sat down and have no information about any other players at the table. We bought in for the max 300 in the 60 big blind structure 2-5 game. The cutoff and the big blind make the call as well, and we're looking to see a flop 5 ways in this one with $50 in the pot. We see a pretty nice flop come. 10, 9, 10 with 2 diamonds, giving us an open ender and a backdoor flush draw, not to mention 2 overs. But when the action checks to me, I'm happy to check back as everyone's range is pretty uncapped. The lady to my left, she decides to make a play for this pot and wagers $20. Now, betting into 4 other players is pretty strong, but this could easily be a position steal attempt, so we gladly make the call and hope to improve on the turn. So with $90 now in the pot, we see 0 additional equity on the turn with the 3 of clubs, and the action, it surprisingly checks all the way through. So now I have to put the cutoff on absolutely nothing, or maybe a 9 at best, and likely not a diamond draw, as I think a strong draw continues and fires a second bullet here after I check. The river peels off the jack of spades, and I'm too squeamish to fire a bullet here. After all, everything I just mentioned on the turn, I'm thinking now after playing the hand and re-watching it. But in the moment, I check, and she checks back, and of course we're good, scooping our first pot of the day in our first hand played. This one's a strange one. Are you ready? Under the gun in +1 limp, and we look down at pocket 3s from the low jack. Being in late position, we raise the $20. Happy to just take this one down pre-flop. Action folds to the gentleman in under the gun, who we're going to see a lot from today. Who makes the call? +1 is getting a good price, and he makes the call too. I can't remember this guy's name to my right, but young dude who subscribes to the vlog, we had a great time at this table. $60 in the middle, and 3 ways, we see ace, queen, king, with 2 hearts on the flop. Okay, horrible for my hand, but excellent for my pre-flop aggressor range, and likely decent for at least one of these 2 callers. I'm appalled watching this video back that I didn't bet. The action checks through. Everyone gets a free turn, and the 6 of diamonds doesn't improve us. I already see where this hand went bad, but in real time, I thought a delayed c-bet may take it down. Under the gun is undeterred, but +1 knows better, and we'll be heads up to a river playing for a $1.30. The river peels off pairing the 6, and when Under the Gun checks to me for yet a 3rd time, I think I can put his king or queen in a tough spot. If he has specifically an ace, then he's surely not going anywhere, but I think I would have heard from him if he had an ace or something like Jack 10 for Broadway. So I rip it in for a pot size bet of 110. Please fold. Please fold. Please fold. Oh no, he's reaching for chips. This is just the first time this guy has my number, but wow, what a call with King 9 offsuit. My check back on the flop was my mistake, I think. On to the next hand from the big blind, under the gun, +1, +2, the cutoff, and the button all limp. The small blind is in for 5 as well, and I look down at ace jack offsuit with 162 left in my stack. With ace high against 6 limpers, I'm good with taking down 30 bucks right here. Honestly, a little tilt play that I couldn't get a solid bluff through on that prior hand, and we go ahead and show the ace for good measure. Moving along, we're on the button, and our new nemesis, he's in the hijack, and he opens this pot to $11. We look down at 10-9 offsuit, and I think this is open to any play in position against only one player in the pot, so I elect to flat and play this one in position. The big blind he calls, and we'll be 3 ways for this pot. The board comes out monotone, 5 jack queen, and the action will check through after we verify that we have a backdoor straight flush draw and an open ender. The turn, it pairs the queen, and this time the hijack leads out for $25, relatively large for this pot. Makes sense with the board texture, he's protecting against straights and flushes, and because we have both draws, we elect to call. I don't think a raise is in order, and he could easily have one of the remaining 2 combos of ace-queen suited or 6 other combos of ace-queen offsuit. The river brings a 3rd queen with 83 in the pot. This time he sizes down a bit compared to the pot, but given the fact that he's still firing and all the draws missed, I give him a little credit. But realistically, I can't beat even king high, so we just muck. We're now in the big blind and we had to add on, so we have 300 in our stack again. Under the gun opens the action to 20, followed by a call from the player and +1, and the button calls. Our nemesis is absent, either getting a drink, getting high, or taking some sort of medication, I'm not real sure. The small blind calls, and we look at a horrible 4-3 offsuit. We have to put in $15 for a chance at a $75 pot. That sounds like 5-1 to me, so we call, and we go 4 ways to a flop, which is just slightly above average. The flop comes out 9-4-4, 2 diamonds. I'm going to play in flow, and I think this is a good board to lead on, as I think any overpair or even ace-king, ace-queen, or king-queen are likely to call at least one street. But I check. Under the gun isn't done, however, and c-bets for $30. The player in the button calls, and our vlog subscriber friend in the small blind makes the call after looking at his cards. There's 190 in the pot, and I think my hand needs a little protection at this point. I decide on a check raise to 125. Let me know in the comments what you think of this sizing. In the moment, I wasn't too worried about pocket 9s because there wasn't a raise ahead of me, but then again, pocket 9s have this board pretty locked up, and a middling pair is definitely in a pre-flop calling range of any of these players. Unlikely anyone has a better 4. So, results-wise, it works out. We then go on to raise ace-7 offsuit on the button and only get 1 caller. When we completely miss the flop, we miss the turn, and we miss the river, the action checks all the way to the end, and we happen to scoop this one with just ace high. We then see ace-3 suited after our nemesis raises the action pre-flop. We fail to 3-bet bluff this one, which turns out to be a big mistake. We fold to a flop c-bet from him, and ultimately, we would have chopped this pot against his ace-5 suited. This table winds down and breaks, and we move to a new table, still down on the day, but making a comeback, after our nemesis has had our number for a 3rd time. He's moved to the same table, 2 seats to my left in the big blind. We look down at king-jack off on the button, and we decide to open this one to $15, and guess what? Our nemesis calls. So heads up with 30 in the middle, the flop comes 8-10 deuce rainbow. This is a board I should be checking back as these middling cards smash his range. But I'm a donkey, and I c-bet for $15 after he checks to me. The only thing I'm repping here is something like pocket 6s, 7s, or 9s. He puts in the check raise to $70. There's no reason for me to stick around. He's got my number yet again. Alright, looking down at 6-7 off from +2, I'm a little irked by my nemesis, and I decide to open the action to $15. Everybody folds, and the lady to my right is the only caller, and we'll go heads up with $35 in the pot. I'd say the flop is above average, drilling bottom 2 on 9-7-6 rainbow. So we obviously continue for 15 after the +1 checks to us, and she proceeds to make the call. The turn ace of diamonds is basically a brick, although some combos of ace rag just drilled a higher 2-pair. This time +1 leads into us though for $40. Having some time on the felt with her, I've seen her overplay pocket pairs and big aces, and her range bottoms out at jacks from the history I have with her. So we make the call, preparing to rip it in on the river. The river pairs the board, and although I've lost the table audio on this one, it went something like, "I got counterfeited, huh?" And she rolls over pocket kings. "Isn't that sick," I say, as I roll over my hand. "Oh, I thought I had 6-7, I exclaim, as I expose 7-8 offsuit. Oh well, let's just pretend that didn't happen and learn that playing tilted is not plus EV. Now we're sitting on the button with only 220 in our stack, and we look down at Jack 10 offsuit. In position with no action ahead of us, this is definitely a raising hand. Our nemesis, he's the only caller in the big blind, and again, he and I are heads up. The flop comes 10 queen 5 with 2 hearts, and when he checks, I have some showdown value, so I check back. The turn, it completes the front door flush with the 7 of hearts, and my nemesis leads for half pot. I'm a non-believer. Well, actually, I believe that the 5th time is the charm, so I make the call. The river's the 6 of clubs. So 8-9 gets there and beats us, any flush beats us, any queen beats us, and several possible 2 pairs like queen 10, 5-6, 6-7, and even 5-7 beat us. And the big blind leads again for a quarter pot. Like I said, second 1 pair must be good. After all, it is our 5th time battling. Or not. Moving right along. Queen 10 suited in the cutoff after the hijack opens huge to $40. I don't have enough behind to play a speculative hand, but I have suited Broadway cards and basically say F it and make the call. Everyone else decides to fold, and a flop like this is exactly why we shouldn't have played this hand. Although we do flop a flush draw and 2 overs on the 5-7-3 2-spade flop. The hijack c-bets for 25 into 85, so about third pot, a typical c-bet amount, and putting 115 in the middle, leaving me here with an awkward stack size of 164. So I figured with a draw and likely 1 live over, I rip it in for 164, and the hijack pretty quickly makes the call. The turn 9 of clubs is of literally no help, but thank goodness we still get to see a river which comes, another spade, and we live to crack pocket kings and scoop $400. Four limpers to me in the big blind. We look down at ace-10 off and we go for a squeeze and we raise to 30. The player in +1 is the only non-believer and we'll play heads up for a $50 pot. The dealer gets things in order and puts a flop out of 2-3 queen with 2 diamonds. Although we missed this one, I should have all the queens in range and decide to size up a bit to 30 for this c-bet to charge diamond draws, and this one will get through as +1 quickly tosses his cards back into the deck. Things are starting to move in the right direction for this session, and we're only halfway through, so buckle up and let's keep going. Looking at a queen jack off in +1 is probably a fold. This spot has gotten me in trouble a lot, but I'll reiterate, I never claimed to be good, and I raised the $20 out of position. +2 makes the call after giving it a little thought, and after the action folds to the small blind, he's getting a decent price to see the flop. So we go 3 ways to a pot of $60. I double check my hand since I misread one earlier, and get 5-deuce-9 on the flop with 2 spades. We both check to +2, and he fires for half pot. The small blind calls, and holding 2 overs and a couple of backdoor draws, I decide to call. Now, with 150 in the middle, the turn is a jack of clubs, giving us top pair, and the action checks all the way through. Should I be betting this one? I was just playing in flow since +2 took the betting lead on the flop. The river 7 of club looks like a brick to me, so since the +2 player checked the turn, I fire for 65, hoping to get some value from a 9 that may think he's still ahead after the turn check through. But both players muck, and we gladly scoop this pot. Another broken table, my nemesis and I move together. He's now a few seats to my right, a much better place for me to be in. I raised $20 pre from +1 with pocket 3s, and the hijack called. We flop bottom set on jack 3-4 2 clubs and the action check through. The turn comes a 7 of hearts, and I delay c-bet now for $25. The player in the hijack confirms the amount and makes the call. The river comes the queen of diamonds. I ponder my bet sizing for quite a while. I think this is a card that hits my opponent's calling range pretty hard, and I'm specifically targeting hands like ace-queen, king-queen, and mostly queen-jack. If I had missed the club draw, I'd likely polarize here, so I bet $100, and after not too long, he makes the call, flipping over king-queen. We show him the bad news and scoop, excited this one worked out, and we actually played kind of good.
Oh, is it on me? Generally, the person that's doing this has a really good hand and they don't want to scare you off. So they're trying to act casual and act cool as a cucumber or whatever. I would definitely proceed with caution if someone's doing this.
In this hand, we're going to battle that same player we just did in that last hand, and I wish I had remembered that lesson from Brian at Detroit Poker that I watched a couple years ago, before too late into this hand. Under the gun limped. He'd been watching the football game on TV behind him. Now he's limping and back to the game. +1 raises to 15, the cutoff calls, the button calls, and onto us with jack 10 suited, we make the call, and now back to that under the gun player who min clicks it to $30, then goes back to watching the game. Oh boy. We make the call, 5 ways with a bloated pot, but the worst is about to come when we flop top pair on 5-10-5 rainbow. Under the gun c-bet's fairly small, like 1/5 pot. The action folds to me, and in the moment I'm thinking ace-king, ace-queen mostly, but in the big blind I should have all the fives in range, so I raise as a semi-bluff to 105, and he thinks for a few seconds before making the call. Okay, 360 in the pot now. The turn is the 8 of clubs, and we're heads up. It occurs to me at this point he could have an overpair. It's this moment that I realize the only way to win this pot is to bet. So I put 115 in the middle. 1/3 pot gives him a good price to call, but should look like value to a decent player, and put him in a bad spot. Well, he's not deterred, and he ships the rest of his 250. Can I fold now? 115 for 725, that's like 6.6 to 1. I call. I'll let you listen.
I'm sure you got it. You got an overpair?
Huh?
You have an overpair? Yep. Kind of what I thought. Nice hand.
You guessed it. He had aces. Moving along, I race pre-flop and get one caller. I c-bet an ace-high flop with my pocket kings and get called. The action checks through on the turn and we get no additional value after spiking a set on the river and betting. We then move on to a cutoff raise to 25, which is big for this game, and a call from our nemesis on the button before looking down at pocket queens, with 339 on our stack, back down on the day. I take a while and I decide how much I want to 3-bet. The hijack is a solid player, and with a large open in late position, I'm putting him at top of range as he's wanting to play for a big pot. And our nemesis is a calling station generally and seems to be getting extra tired, drunk, or high at this point. So I elect on a 4x 3-bet to 105 as I'll be playing this one out of position. The hijack decides that's just too much and puts his cards in the muck, but our button friend who has had our number 5 times today decides to make the call after quite the extensive stay pre-flop in the tank. If we flop good, my plan is to check raise as he tends to bet when check to. With an SPR of about 1 now, I don't want to scare him off with a flop jam on a low board. The flop comes well above average with 8 queen ace rainbow, and we stick to the plan and we check it over to our nemesis. He actually surprises us with a snap all-in jam for our 234 effective stack. We snap it back and flip over the second nuts. The 7 of spades gives us a little sweat, and the river yet more sweat, but when he sits in disbelief, we know we're good. He mucks after 30 seconds without showing his hand. We then sit for another minute while he hesitantly relinquishes most of his stack to us. We're just happy to scoop, and sorry man, you called our number 1 too many times. +2 opens this one to $20, and 3 other players call ahead of us. We look down at ace-jack suited from the small blind, sitting now up on the day with 800 in our stack. This is probably better played as a squeeze and to isolate the early position raiser, but we decide on a flat call here, and the big blind of course joins in, getting a great price. 5 ways to the flop with $100 in the middle. Queen 4-4, 2 hearts on board, basically missing us completely. We check, and surprised as the action is going to check all the way around. We're feeling pretty good with ace high and a backdoor flush draw now. The turn is a great card for us in the 2 of diamonds. Now +2 decides to delay c-bet for $40. The hijack decides to call. This is our nemesis. And while we should have all the 4s in range and actually holding the nut flush draw, it's probably a place we should be raising. But on this paired board, we could be needing to fade some of our runouts to actually be good. So we just call. 3 ways with 220 in the middle, we bank the river 7 of diamonds. With 2 other players interested in the pot, I want to let them do the betting, so we check. The player in +2 bets $100 this time, and guess where our friend in the hijack goes? That's right, into the tank. It takes him nearly a full minute before he decides. He puts in a raise to $250. Oh crap, what a spot to be in. Thinking back to his first hand that we showed today, we couldn't get him off King 9 offsuit. I'm a bit afraid of something like Queen 4 off in this spot. Realistically, pocket queens from +2 is a possibility, and pocket 7s or 2s is very possible as well given the action pre-flop and everyone checking the flop. But let's face it, our hand is way too strong to fold, and I think raising with the +2 left to call is too risky. So we just make the call. It doesn't take long for +2 to decide to call as well. But no one wants to show their hand, and while the hijack should be the first to show, we just roll over the nut flush, and that appears to be the winner. So we'll scoop almost $1,000 in this pot and get another one past our nemesis. We're 2 for 7 with him now, and not done yet. Our nemesis friend, he opens this one to $20 from the hijack, and we have Queen Rag suited on the button, so we elect a flat after the cutoff does the same, playing in position with $1,100 in our stack. Both blinds, they decide to defend, and we'll be 5 ways to a flop. We flop middle pair on a 2-club king high board and happy to check in position after it checks around to us. The turn is far above good, in the 5 of spades, giving us trips with a decently good kicker. The small blind leads this one for $30, and the big blind gets out of the way. The hijack, our buddy, he makes the call, and although we likely need to fade a club, I'm not sure that we need much protection here. So we just call, hoping to underrep our hand just a bit. The river is a 7 of diamonds, an essential brick. I'm quite disappointed now that the action checks around to us, figuring they were both on a flush draw. I don't think a polarized bet gets us paid, so targeting a king holding, I go for value with $75. The small blind doesn't think too long before committing his cards to the muck. Now our buddy goes into the tank yet again. This time, it's about 45 seconds before he elects to make the call, putting the pot at $340. We turn over trips, and as he stares for the board, we pull the 2 5s up on the board. Then he mucks, and we scoop. In the next hand, the undergun straddle for $10 is on, and the cutoff raises to $25. Although we're out of position, we think a suited Jack 10 can flop pretty good multi-way, and they're suited Broadway, so we make the call, and under the gun makes the call as well. 3 ways with $75 in, the flop comes 9-8-2, rainbow, giving us an up and down straight draw and a backdoor flush draw with 2 overs. We check to play and flow, and under the gun commits all of his stack for $46. Not a whole lot. The other player gets out of the way, and we make the call. Let's go to the run out. We bank our straight immediately on the turn, roll over the straight, and under the gun shows us he rivered trips after flopping top 2 with Jack 9 suited. Man, tough break. For us, it's time to rack up and book the win.
We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 20, 40, 60, 65, 66, 67, 15, 67.
All right, guys. Well, that's a wrap from Hustler Casino. So we were played for a total, I think, 4 hours. I'll put all the numbers right up here for you. But yeah, we profited about $1,000. So all the numbers are there. Really happy with how things went. This guy at the table had my number all night long at 2 other tables. I had to play at 3 different tables. Jumped around a little bit because things were winding down by the time I got here late on a Sunday night, or in the evening. Anyways, things were winding down. So all good and pretty happy with the result. So until next time, guys, wash your hands.